Etsy ads can be very overwhelming and confusing to run. However, they're also a great tool to help elevate your shop, to boost your listings, and most importantly, make more profit if you run them effectively. And that's why I thought it'd be a great idea to have an Etsy ads expert on the channel with Hannah Gardiner. She spent hundreds of thousands on Etsy ads over the years, and she's had multiple successful Etsy shops. So she definitely knows what she's talking about. And in this video, we're going to talk about what's necessary to succeed with Etsy ads, what kind of workflow you need to adapt, and how to track them effectively to know that you're actually making a profit. Who should be using ads on Etsy?
In my opinion, I think that if you have proven that you can make sales organically, then your next best lowest hanging fruit to increase your sales, increase your profit, is Etsy ads. If you're somebody that just like, if you went to market, you're starting to sell on Etsy, and essentially it's been months and months and months and you have not made a single sale or consistent sales, then that's pretty much a red flag that says that Etsy ads are not going to solve your problem. If you're somebody that has launched their store, you're starting to gain momentum for the first time, starting to see regular sales every single day, every other day, then that's a good indicator that you are somebody that is ready to start dipping your toes in the sand for Etsy ads. If, of course, financially it is comfortable. If finances are uncomfortable, then I would say wait until you've made enough cash flow to then reinvest back into your Etsy ads.
And once people do start getting a few sales coming in, what should they start advertising? Like just the best sellers? Should you test things individually, or just turn on the whole catalog?
The safest play that you can do is to turn on Etsy ads only for ones that start making regular sales first. That's the safest play if you're trying to play the financial route. If you're more aggressive, and like I was talking to Stephen Chin about this, and he was like, no, I turn on ads for everything, because if I don't think that I've made a strong enough listing that it's not going to do well with Etsy ads, then something is wrong with my launch process. Like I didn't do the right research up front. But that's two different types of sellers. So he is obviously a very, very high end, high top seller, right? And so so the safest play is have you proven that you can make organic sales for that listing, and only start investing in Etsy listings that have made organic sales or are starting to see consistent organic sales. If you have been on Etsy for a while and you have never ran Etsy ads, but you make consistent organic sales, then I would say go ahead and test everything. Like go ahead and put it on everything. But again, if money's uncomfortable, if that's really scary, then you only put on listings that have shown that they can make organic sales.
And how much people spend if they're, of course, if they're an experienced seller, they've got the budget, just spend as much as you want. But for someone who's new to this, who started to get regular sales on some items, how much should they start off with spending?
Something is better than nothing. Like you can start with a budget as low as $1 a day, $5 a day, or you can go more aggressive and go $15, $20 a day. The name of the game with Etsy ads is that once you start increasing your budget, you don't go backwards. So if you hedge up your budget to $10 today, 2 weeks from now, you don't want to go back down to $5. You want to continue to go up, because what happens with your Etsy ads, or how you want to look at your Etsy ads, is, you want to get the engine working to the point where if you give Etsy ads $1, it's going to give you back $5 or $6 or $7 or whatever is profitable for you. And so if you gave it $1 to make back $7, if you gave it $700, right, then you're going to make 7x whatever that return is, right? So why wouldn't you want to increase your budget? And so as you hedge up, you're just optimizing to make sure that every dollar going in is yielding you the best return. And you can't do that unless you start spending in the first place, to then figure out how to trim the fat off of, or basically turn off listings that aren't yielding you that return. But again, you can only do that by investing in marketing for your Etsy shop for the first time.
And how would you figure out when to turn off a listing? Like when is it time to kill that because it's not yielding a return?
So maybe I can kind of give you a visual here. One visual here that might help us out a little bit. So essentially, your question is when should you kill a listing, right?
Yeah, when should you turn off ads basically for it?
So as you're spending money on your ads, you are going to, I call it like my uncomfortable zone. So basically, what we want to do is, this is just a screenshot, just disregard what the text says, but this is the screenshot of your Etsy ads dashboard, right? And you have a spend column here. Obviously, this says $3,000. You don't need to spend $3,000, but in your spend column here, you want to have spent enough money that says, I have collected enough data to make a decision. So when people talk about how long should I run the ad before I turn it off, I don't really care about time as much as I care about spend. And so for us, we like to spend at least our sale price. So we'll spend in between $40 and $60 to then say, are we hitting our target profit, which I'm sure we'll explain what that means here in a second, to then say that this listing should stay on or off. Let me just see here if I can find a better screenshot. Yeah, so like this. So in this column here, we will spend at least $40 to $60, and we're going to analyze something called an ad cost percentage that then says that this listing is making us more, like this is a profitable listing after our ad spend. And unfortunately, in your Etsy ads dashboard here, your dashboard doesn't show you the information that you need, because a lot of times your ROAS, or your return on ad spend, which is just what you spent against what the ad made you, isn't a really accurate depiction of the profitability of your listing. Because what we want to do is we want to look at spend against a different metric, which is your top line sales. And historically, what will happen, especially in the print on demand space and the low digital download space, is people's return on ad spend will look really, really bad. But then when they analyze what the ads spent compared to the total sales that are coming on the back end of that listing, it's actually really, really healthy. So I'm going to just pull up my ProfitTree dashboard here. This is the first and only real-time profit tracking solution for Etsy sellers. You know, our first feature is basically a COGS management feature, which is tracking your product cost to then show you your profit. And essentially why that's important in terms of marketing is because when you start making sales on Etsy for the first time, you're not going to have an ad cost percentage, this purple piece of the pie. You basically are going to see inside of ProfitTree, or if you just run these numbers yourself in your own Etsy account, that you're going to have something called your net profit percentage before marketing, which is basically your operating profit before marketing or before ad spend. And what we're looking for is to give a piece of our operating profit to our ad cost percentage, so that it increases not only our revenue but also our profit. And so why this dashboard is important and why it's relative to your ads is because you don't know until you launch your store, or I mean, you can run the numbers yourself again, right? What you need to know is your profit percentage before marketing, so then you can determine what is a healthy ad cost percentage. So people in the print on demand space, or the top print on demand sellers, normally like to keep their, like this is pretty much the standard, normally need to keep their ad cost percentage less than say 10% to make sure that they're still clearing a healthy profit for their shop. I would say, I don't know if this is like pretty standard, but the standard print on demand seller probably makes before ads I would say a 30 to 35% profit percentage before marketing, right? So if they want to clear a 20% profit after all expenses, they really have to keep their ad cost below, like I said, that 10 or 12%. And so this gives you that visual, and it's really important to know what your cost of goods sold is and how much that eats up your profit each month as you're selling your products. So then you can determine that healthy ad cost percentage specifically for you. I'm throwing out general numbers, but obviously print on demand has evolved. There's now inside of Printify and Printful, there's so many different types of products that you can choose from that have all different types of margins. But essentially, in our advertisement tab, what we're showing you here compared to ROAS is something called your ad cost percentage on the listing level. So in the same way that we're showing you your ad cost percentage for your entire shop, we're also showing you something called tacos, which is your ad cost percentage for that exact listing. So if you're a print on demand seller and you want to scale your Etsy ads, you want to make sure that every dollar that you give Etsy is yielding you you're the best profit that you can get. So you would basically, it just becomes very black and white. You would want to turn off any listing that isn't hitting your target ad cost percentage. So anything that's not hitting that 10 to 12% and has spent your threshold, which for us again is our sale price. For you, it might be a little bit less because you're in print on demand. Maybe that's $20 or $30, right? And you know, after your listing has spent $20 or $30, it should be hitting your target ad cost percentage of 10 to 12%. And if it's not hitting it, then we turn that listing off and let that money go to other listings that are hitting that 12, that 9%, that 11%, that is your target ad cost percentage and your target profit, because then you know it's yielding your target profit. Does that make sense?
Let me just recap a few things, because I'm worried that we might have lost a few people here. So I think what you're saying is, first of all, to go back a few steps on the Etsy side of things, you've got the ROAS, right? And the higher that number, the better. Ideally, you want like a 3-4 ROAS, depending on what you're selling. But the issue is that that's only accounting for sales that come from ads. It's not accounting for organic sales, right? That's what Etsy doesn't tell you. So you might have a low ROAS, like a 1, or you had like a 0.8 ROAS, which looks terrible, but you also, through the ads, getting organic sales on top of it.
Right.
And if I understand you correctly, the tacos right here, that is also adding the organic sales into it. So it's all of your sales combined, and the percentage that's taken out of those sales for ads.
Correct.
Right? And the lower that number, the better. For print on demand, it should be around 10%, which a lot of the people watching from the Amazon merch side will know this as ACOS from the Amazon Ads console. That doesn't add organic sales, but it's a similar principle where you're aiming on merch, you're aiming for like 20% to break even, or lower. The lower the better in that case.
100%. So yeah, the key difference between what Etsy shows you here, so this revenue here inside of your Etsy account is only accounting for the green and the purple here. So it's the ad revenue from the listing. So if they clicked on the listing and they purchased on the listing, and then the purple, which is if they clicked on the ad and then they purchased something else in your listing, right? And so it's not including that third, right? That pink reddish one, which is your organic revenue. And historically, if something is performing well organically, regardless if the ad revenue looks good or bad, right? We would not want to kill the momentum on that listing. And so a lot of times with print on demand, they come and they look at ROAS and they start turning things off. But then when you analyze your ad cost percentage, you're like, wait a second, actually financially, I'm hitting my target. I don't want to kill that momentum, because with Etsy ads, you have only a 30-day attribution window. So that means if someone clicks on your ad today, but they don't buy till Christmas, right? That sale isn't being attributed to that click. If you get, a 5-star review from an ad and someone leaves a beautiful photo review, now when that organic traffic's coming in, you're now converting those organic sales. So there's like this whole snowball effect that happens where the paid traffic increases your organic revenue. And again, if it's financially making sense, or it's still profitable, right? Even though, say, this said 0.85 or something horrible, right? You would not want to kill the momentum on that ad. And so that's really the power of just trying to take the confusion out of Etsy ads for sellers in this way. So now it's just hopefully more black and white, especially in print on demand, where if you have thousands of listings, your budget actually might spend really, really fast. And you actually might spend close to $1,000 a day. And you want it to, if it's giving you, that total return, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But you only get to those kind of levels once you've found the listings that have got a good ACOS, tacos, ROAS, that kind of thing. It's not something that you want to do in like week 2, right? Turn it up to 1,000 and hope for the best.
No. And it can go as fast as slow as you want. Like there's pros and cons. Like if you're just hedging up your budget at $5 a day, once every couple of weeks, that's fine. As long as you're going in one direction and not going back the other way. And the lowest hanging fruit for sellers, like right now, is going in and looking at your ad cost percentage as is. And like, even if you've only been spending $10 a day for the last month, that's still good enough data that says with the existing data sample of listings that I have running with ads, if it's hitting your target ad cost percentage just as is without doing anything else, not turning off anything, right? Just increasing your budget from $10 a day to $100 a day. If this was at 12%, doesn't mean that 12% all of a sudden is going to shoot up to 60% because you went from $10 a day to $100 a day, because your ad is being shown to the same quality data sample of people at $10 a day versus $100 a day. So without doing anything at all, just increasing your budget just means that you're going to proportionally scale your sales. So it's just going to bring you more traffic and more revenue and more profit. If you even have been spending, and like that's the biggest, like I think green light for people is that like it turns on oh wow, okay, I never thought of it like that. And then all they do is raise their budget and all of a sudden their numbers double overnight just because they increase their budget. Because this ad cost percentage, or this amount of spend, if this was only spending $100 a day versus $1,000, right? The same people are going to be like your click-through rates, nothing is going to change because it's the same data sample of people. It's just a larger data sample of people, which means your numbers are going to proportionally scale to your spend, if that makes sense.
And how does the integration, like from Etsy to ProfitTree, how does that all work, the setup? Yeah,
so if you are a Printify or a Printful seller, all you do is just come in here and you integrate your Printify or Printful account or both of them. And then all of a sudden your product costs will just start filing in here. You also have you have product and listing reports that gives you even more in-depth insights. So like if you go onto the listings, right, you can see, if we go to the sort this by what was the most profitable, right? So you can click on a listing and you can see which actual variation option is making you the bulk of your sales. So if we go to, total net sales, we can see in this drop-down menu, these 3 sizes are making us 90% of all the money in this listing. So it gives you a lot more in-depth analytics outside of just Etsy ads, but I would say Etsy ad, like our Etsy ads feature and our COGS management feature. I mean, just your dashboard alone gives you a lot of really cool insights. Like it's basically like your control panel for your shop to see, okay, we know that ads can make or break a shop. So it's really important that we keep this number in control, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And can people try this out, or how does the whole pricing model work with ProfitTree?
Yeah, we have 2 different offers that we can offer all your people, special offers that aren't something that we offer publicly. We can give 1 month free trial, or we also have a lifetime offer. Our lifetime offer is you get lifetime access to our starter plan. So our pro plan, like the difference is our pro plan gets you access to the whole, like all the reports, the whole calendar, everything like that. Our starter plan gets you access to the dashboard, your advertisement and your order report, and just a limited calendar. It's only $67 for lifetime access. So it's a really good option for you to just like start exploring profit tracking, start exploring ads for if you don't want to do like monthly subscription or something like that. So both of those we can give to your audience if you'd like. And
yeah, that'd be cool.
Give it a try out.
So that already shows you the purple number, right? The percentage that's important here of the ad spend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And that's a one-off fee. There's no subscription that renews every month.
No, not with the lifetime plan. Okay. Lifetime plan is unlimited access.
I'm curious then, what if people are starting out with this and they're struggling to hit the target? They keep turning off their listings, but they just can't get anywhere near to like the 10%. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. Let me just pull up a really funny like little analogy picture for you here. So like the goal with your Etsy ads is like to treat it kind of like this waterfall here. So in Etsy ads, in the regular organic listing algorithm is the same concept. So as Etsy sellers, like our goal is to have a consistent listing launch process where we're constantly on a monthly basis making new products, testing out new images, and like consistently launching new listings, right? And the rule of thumb is like out of every 100 listings we launch, right, there's going to only be a percentage that the algorithm likes, and they make it into this waterfall and make it into this pool of winners. It's kind of like our YouTube videos, right? We do all the same research, we give all the keyword research, the scripting, all thumbnail, title, the same amount of love, and then we give it to an algorithm, and then it's really out of our control after that point of what the algorithm decides to do with it, and that's okay. And so maybe we post 100 things and 20% make organic sales, right? Now, out of this pool, our goal is to build shops that get this pool, a percentage of the things that land in this pool, into the second pool. And this second pool resembles, out of all the things that sell well, right, organically, right, let's put some ad money behind it and figure out of what percentage of these are going to make sense financially and become profitable with Etsy ads. And it's the same concept. Just because something sells well organically does not mean that it's going to make it into this pool. It means that it's your best bet to give it $1 with Etsy ads or to give it some money to test it out. But at the end of the day, the ads algorithm is going to do the same thing. Like, you know, when you go into your Etsy stats and there's like only, you know, a percentage that are getting the most views and clicks and all that stuff. Same thing is going to happen when you turn on your Etsy ads for the first time. There's going to be a percentage that the algorithm likes. And sometimes that doesn't match what's happening in your organic Etsy stats, right? A lot of times it's similar, but sometimes it's not. And so as we continue to feed things at the top of the funnel on a consistent basis, the goal is to make this pool as big as possible, followed by this pool as big as possible. And if you're running ads and none of them are hitting your target ad cost percentage after a good enough or big enough data sample of spend, say $20, $30, right? And it's not hitting target tacos, then that just means that we have to continue running this engine here and continue to feed it until something starts hitting. And the only way you can get your Etsy ads budget to spend more is by giving it more things to spend on. One big common thing that we get is, you know, I turn on Etsy ads for 30 listings, but only 3 are spending the majority of the budget. And that's a normal occurrence. That's a normal thing, right? It's the same thing when you turn on your listings organically and only a percentage are getting views and clicks, right? Because the algorithm's deciding which one it likes, right? And then when those ones start getting the clicks with the ads, then we go analyze our tacos. Does it make sense financially? If it does, we let it on. If it doesn't, we turn it off. If nothing, then we just keep feeding things in. And over time, as you do it over and over and over again and launch things, eventually you'll start growing this bottom pool. And the goal is to get this bottom pool as big as possible. And so another kind of objection that we sometimes get, I mean, this is more for like low ticket, like super low ticket goods, is, you know, I can't spend on Etsy ads because my price point is too low or my margins are too low. And the goal for you is to then focus on not all product opportunities, but that means then you want to build a really healthy competitive shop. That means that you may want to consider focusing on other product opportunities where even though they sell well organically, they also make sense financially. So like if you're in print on demand, this could manifest into making listings that incentivize group sales. So like where your main image shows 2 things instead of 1, where it's like his and hers, or party shirts, where it's basically incentivizing the buyer to buy more than one thing. What this does is it increases your average order value and it increases the amount of spend you can give to that listing to still be profitable, because the listing is a higher ticket listing. But even still, with people selling low ticket that really believe that they can't run ads, it's mostly because they're looking at ROAS and not our ad cost percentage, because a lot of times even the low ticket stuff still makes sense financially. It's just because ROAS isn't giving you the whole picture. And you can like almost prove it to yourself, because you can see, okay, if I didn't spend on the ads, I would have lost, you know, this much profit basically.
Do you have an example of that maybe?
Yes, I do actually. We have a full case study. So yeah, here we go. So let's back it up here. So for example, in one of my shops in 2023, we did $300,000 in our net sales And our operating profit after all of our product costs, our marketing, our fees, all that stuff was $107,000. So in 2023, we spent $43,000 on Etsy ads. And that was a 14% marketing cost percentage, which still left us a 35% operating profit after all costs. And so what we wanted to explore is, okay, well, what would have happened if we didn't spend $43,000? Maybe would we have made more profit because we wouldn't have invested 14% of this pie, right? Like our pie would have been bigger, right? If that's the case, then Etsy ads don't matter, right? Like if they're not actually making us more profit. So we can actually prove this. So the Etsy ads in 2023 contributed to $137,000 on online ads, on-site ads, and $18,000 on off-site ads. So about 41,000, and then about a 2,000 spend, right? That 43,000. And so when we run the numbers, the profit difference would have been from 107 would have dropped to 72,000. So here's us breaking it down in this slide here. So if we didn't spend that 43,000, we would have missed out on the 137 and the 18,000, right? That would have meant that our top line revenue would have dropped to 145,000. However, our profit margin percentage would have increased to 50%, because remember it was at 35% before, but if we didn't spend the 43,000, that would have gave us back 15%. So basically our new profit would have only been $72,000. So basically our minimum profit loss would have been $34,000. So that's not revenue, that's actual profit. That's money that we would not have had in our pocket if we did not run ads. And this is also the minimum loss of profit, because we were also running ads in 2022. So all of the reviews, all the add to carts, all that momentum that we built the year before from running ads was also contributing to that snowball effect of that, 300,000 that next year. So 34,000 would have been the minimum loss of profit.
Wow. So that's like, it's like 30% basically, or a third of your profit that you would have lost by not running ads. Yes, your profit margin would have been higher, which seems enticing, right? And you would have had less cost, but the bottom line would have been worse.
Right.
And just for clarification, this is not a POD shop, right? Because the profit margin seems quite high.
Yes, this is not print on demand, although I have been seeing people selling like blankets and stuff. Those margins are pretty good too, like almost like 50%. I don't know. I'm not in the POD space. You probably know more about it than me, but yeah, there's like new products popping up all over. But yeah, generally speaking, for an Etsy shop that has their Etsy ads maxed out, at minimum, what you're going to see, or what we've seen for our print-on-demand sellers and handmade sellers, at a minimum, you're going to see a 2x in revenue and a minimum at least 20% increase in profit, if done correctly, like if healthy with healthy listings, right? Again, if you are struggling to even make sales for the first time, Etsy ads are not going to be like the magic pill that you're going to take, right? Like really try to focus on getting organic sales first and then start exploring Etsy ads. But yeah, at a minimum, you're going to 2x your revenue and you're going to at least increase your profit by 20%, which is pretty significant if you think about it. So
yeah, it is for sure. So that makes sense then. So it's first focus on niche selection, on your quality of product design, whatever it is, quality of your mock-ups, your listing. And once that is down and it's getting you regular organic sales, then you should definitely consider ads. And if you track them properly, it can help you scale a lot. I think it is definitely a big issue on Etsy that a lot of people, and I know this as well from my own experience, is that you turn the ads on, you don't have a clue what's going on, you just see a lower ROAS and you're like, okay, let's kill that. And you just, you feel like there's no point of running them. When clearly, by your examples, you can be missing out on a lot of profit due to the fact that Etsy just makes it difficult to track.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why though, because it would just make them more money, but I don't know. I guess it's just like not a priority for them. But yeah, eventually, I mean, this is like our first version of this feature, eventually, we're enhancing this quite a lot. Like eventually we can actually show you your profit, since we know all of your products, we have all your product costs, we can actually show you your profit on your on your ads. You can maybe eventually, other ideas we had is like sending like a target taco. So we start sending you notifications. If your ad cost gets too high, tacos, ad cost, same thing. If this gets too high and starts notifying you, it's going over your 12% over the last 30 days or something like that. Which is another thing that I want to mention with ads. Etsy ads are a month by month based thing. You can't really make a lot of decisions without analyzing on the high level what's happening month over month, right? Like you can't get a true ad cost percentage for your entire shop. Like this number is not really going to be real without at least 30 days of sales data, right? I would say at the very least, like you need to look at things month over month and see how they're changing.
Another reason to kind of keep the spend lower at the beginning if you don't have a lot of budget and if you're new to testing this. But then once you do have a month worth of data, can you then check more regularly, like the past week in comparison to the previous week, stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. I would say for tacos as well. When you first turn the listing on for the first time, it's not really about the time as much as the spend, right? So two different concepts, right? One is your overall ad cost percentage for your shop. So is this healthy? Two is the ad cost percentage on the listing healthy, which is really contingent on how much did you spend. So like, again, like go back to like, it's not so much about time here as it is about how much is it spent that it has collected enough data to make a decision, right? After $465, I know that I should have had my decision. After $46, I know that I should have a decision by then on whether or not to turn something on or off, right? And so you're more so just analyzing how much did it spend? Is it hitting the target tacos? And what we're trying to do though, by doing that on the listing level, is how you're going to trim the fat on this number here. So getting that 16% down to 15% and then 14%, so far and so forth, if that makes sense.
Do you also plan to integrate with My Designs in the future?
We've been asked quite a few times. I hope so. I'm a friend of Curtis. Curtis is a really good guy. So yeah, hopefully, definitely,
Nice.
hopefully here soon. If they have, if your My Design listings, I think they publish with SKUs, if I'm not mistaken. You still can actually do COGS tracking because we have a bulk uploader here. And then we're launching a new version of this as well, where you can just, basically what this is going to end up doing is right now we show all the products that exist in your catalog. But once we went live, we realized that print on demand people they can have hundreds of thousands of products. So what this will end up manifesting into is only showing you products that actually have made sales, which is going to make your COGS tracking, or, if you're not integrated with a print on demand provider, a lot more, less painful. Let's just put it that way.
A lot simpler. That makes sense. Do you have any other magical slides on your presentation that you want to share with us? Or
I think I pretty much covered it. I'm trying to think of just like what are like the other questions that people have. I think I even have a slide on that. Like, what are some of the other
like
commonly asked questions
or common mistakes?
I would say sometimes people get caught up in things that don't matter. So people will start pulling out things like, what about my conversion rate? What about views? What about CTR? And they kind of just get caught up in things that don't really matter. Like ultimately, the only thing that matters with your ads are you hitting your profit, like your target profits, right? Are you hitting that 20% profit after your spend, right? Clicks, the only thing I care about with clicks, what does clicks tell me? Clicks does not tell me anything about the health of the listing. It tells me what people like about that image. And so if you're analyzing your listing, your ads based off and sorting it by click rate, the ones that have the highest click rate, that's telling you that mock-up's working, that design is working, and you're getting the majority of the clicks. And so that just helps you inspire you for the next rendition of products that you're going to launch. So if you know, oh, wow, we're seeing a recurring trend here with this mock-up. Out of the top 20 ads that are making sense or having the highest CTR, right? There's a trend with the mock-up I'm using, or there's a trend with the font. You're looking for trends that then help you design better things like, things that can compete against your last best thing. And so that's what click rate really matters for. Views The only thing I like to look at views is like, after I spent like my target or my threshold spend of 40, I like to look at like, okay, how many views was that? So then it's like kind of giving you an indicator of how many views is like, oh, after this many views, I should have been able to make a decision, which is kind of arguably you can do the same thing by looking at your spend. But like, click rate, views, clicks, like that's, or cost per click. Even sometimes people get caught up in like CPC. That's like, they'll look at one click and look at how much that one click costs them. Like none of that really matters if the listing is profitable. You know what I mean? Like really, truly, the only thing that matters is profit at the end of the day. So that is, I would say, one of the common things. Like it's not that they don't matter. It's just, it's not the deciding factor of whether or not that listing should live or die.
Obviously, it's easier to be profitable with a low CPC listing, right? But if you have a listing that's $2 per click and it's making you a lot of profit, obviously you want to leave that on over a listing that's like 10 cents, but it's just wasting money, right? That can be the case. So it's not the only thing you should focus on or obsess over. And I think it's an easy one to get caught up in if you've only had like one or two clicks where those are really expensive, and it seems like a bad sign, right? But I'm guessing you could be killing like a profitable listing way too early if that's what you kind of focus on too much.
Yeah, because I've definitely heard people talk about like, oh, if it doesn't hit my target CPC, then I'm turning it off, which really just doesn't make sense, because like a CPC that if it costs 50, even if it costs 50 cents, but it's making you money, I'm going to spend the 50 cents, right? Versus getting a bunch of 10-cent clicks that don't convert at all for that listing, So yeah, we could talk about, what if I have a listing that has been spending good, but the tacos is increasing? So what happens if you come in here and you see that your ad cost percentage is increasing over time? Right. So just like listings have lifespans, like just because you have a listing that made you 15x ROAS today, that doesn't mean that it's going to be like that 3 years from now. And so sometimes listings can go on a downward trend, and same thing with your ads. And so if you see that tacos are increasing like month over month, that could indicate that that listing is on a downward trend. And so you would just want to analyze it and eventually turn it off, and supplement that one that it is, increasing with new winners. So that's why it's really important that you're consistently launching new things to sell, basically, so that you're supplementing the dying ones with new ones, and it's like a healthy cycle constantly happening. Now, hopefully they're not dying that fast, you know what I mean? But it is like a normal occurrence if you see your ad cost percentage basically going up.
Basically, don't get complacent. Don't stop posting if you found like a couple of winners. That makes sense.
Yeah, but that's pretty much, I would say, those are probably like the top questions there.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks a lot for the explanation and overview of ProfitTree.
No
Hannah,
worries at all.
I had looked at it for a while. I think since our last interview.
Yeah.
And I think it's come a long way since then already. It looks really good, very clear, and I know it's going to help a lot of people out. So,
Thank you.
Awesome what you've put together, and we'll have links down below to the free trial and the lifetime deal, which you said you can only get that in the description. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we see you again soon.